Prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics. What's the difference between them? Should you be taking one of them, two of them, all three of them? If you have found yourself confused by the world of prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics, I've got you. In this video, we are going to dive into what the difference is between them and whether you should be supplementing with them. Hi, I'm Lauren Grace, co-founder of Healus, home of the Complete Biotic, which is our very popular postbiotic supplement. And one of the most commonly asked questions that we've received over the years is, should I be taking a probiotic and a prebiotic if I'm already taking your postbiotic? Does your postbiotic replace a probiotic? How does this all work? So in this video, I'm going to break that down for you. First, let's dive into the difference between prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. So starting with prebiotics. Prebiotics are found in fibrous foods. Soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, you can find prebiotics within those foods. When you eat those foods, the prebiotics make their way down to your lower intestine where they feed your microbiome. They literally are food and fuel for the bacteria in the gut. So they not only help feed the good bacteria in the gut, they help sustain that bacteria, and they help promote the growth of new bacteria. So prebiotics, which you're going to find in fibrous foods, play a very key role in keeping your microbiome fueled. So they really do play an important role when it comes to gut health. Now, probiotics are the actual bacteria in your gut. So they are the actual bacteria that makes up your microbiome. Now, in your microbiome, you have trillions of bacteria. And of those trillions of bacteria, you have like over 5,000 different species or strains of bacteria. And this is what makes up your microbiome. And your microbiome not only affects your gut health, but pretty much every single system in your body, brain health, immune system, plays a very, very important role. So having a balanced and diverse microbiome is really, really key to your overall health and well-being. Now, postbiotics are the byproduct or end result of certain probiotic bacteria in the gut. So there is some bacteria in the gut that will essentially make postbiotics. So postbiotics are not a bacteria in themselves. They are different than a probiotic. They are different than a prebiotic. But postbiotics are produced by some of this bacteria in the gut. Postbiotics, in turn, do a number of things for the microbiome. One, they're lowering inflammation in the gut. They are responsible for repairing the gut lining and maintaining gut lining integrity. They help to get rid of pathogenic bacteria and rogue cells, cells that can form tumors. But they also do a lot beyond the gut. They play a role in your brain health, your liver health, your immune system, even your skin. Basically, every system in the body is affected by postbiotics. So the production of postbiotics is very important. So making sure that you have a good supply of postbiotics is important for basically every system in your body. And now hopefully from that short explanation, you can already see how these three work together. Prebiotics you get from your food. They help fuel your microbiome. They help fuel those probiotics, keep them going, keep them healthy. And then certain probiotic bacteria produces postbiotics. Now, this is all something that your body does naturally. You were born with a microbiome, and as long as you're getting some fiber in your diet, this process is happening. But the reason that we turn to supplementation is that the system doesn't always work as perfectly as it should, especially in this day and age. If you are not getting in a significant amount of fiber, your microbiome is not getting fed with all those prebiotics. That's going to throw the balance of your microbiome off. You're not going to produce as many postbiotics, which in turn then creates not such a healthy gut environment. And it starts to be sort of a vicious cycle. Your digestion gets worse, and then it's hard to even eat fiber and digest it properly and break it down. You can kind of see how this cycle gets going and why so many people turn to supplements. Now, we are obviously big fans of postbiotics here. We've been using them clinically for 20 years now, before anyone really even knew what they were. And the reason that my partner Brian started using them in his practice was because they worked. He found results that he wasn't getting with traditional probiotics. So that's why he turned to postbiotics. And before we even had all the science that we have now about it, he just saw such a difference in people's gut health. And one of the reasons why postbiotics are so needed is because our gut tends to be more compromised, because people aren't getting enough fiber, they're not feeding their microbiome. These postbiotics are lacking in supply in the body. Our body's not naturally producing as many as we need. And this is why supplementing has made such a big difference for our patients and of course for many of you watching. Now, probably the most commonly asked question we've received throughout the years is, does a postbiotic replace a probiotic? Or should I be supplementing with a prebiotic and a probiotic as well as your postbiotic? So I want to dig into that more, and I'm going to give you my clinical perspective on whether you need to supplement with a prebiotic and a probiotic as well. This is based on my time in practice with patients, doing advanced stool panel tests. So I'm coming from a clinical perspective on this, just based on our experience in practice. If you have a physician that wants you to supplement a certain way, of course, please listen to them and listen to your body. But first, let's talk about supplementing with prebiotics. Is that something you need to supplement with? I think prebiotics are very important, but I always encourage my patients to get that through their diet more than anything else. That means eating foods that are high in fiber, making sure that your diet has a variety of foods that are high in fiber so that you're getting in a good amount every single day. And this is much more of a problem now than it ever used to be because of the low carb phase and everyone doing keto and cutting out so many fibrous foods. And there's absolutely a way for you to still follow some of those diets and make sure that you're getting in enough vegetables and getting in enough fiber. Because without that, you're not feeding your microbiome. Diet is always going to be the best way to get prebiotics into your body because you need a good amount of fiber, you need that breakdown, you need that process to happen. One of the reasons that we made our protein powder, which is a prebiotic protein powder, we made that for our patients at the time. But, before it was ever online, we made a hemp-based protein powder that every single ingredient in it contains prebiotics. So hemp has a lot of prebiotics, coconut has a lot of prebiotics, that's one of the ingredients. We have inulin, which is a great prebiotic, yuccan, that's another one that's in there. So all of our main ingredients in this protein powder are packed full of prebiotics, and we made that purposely to make it easier for our patients to get in their prebiotics throughout the day so that they could make a smoothie for breakfast using that protein powder. They could have it as a snack later on the day or even dessert, and it was going to give them a really good dose of prebiotics. So that's a good way if you are looking to up your prebiotic and your fiber intake, is to try and get it through a smoothie. And if you don't want to use our protein, just even adding in some like inulin powder to a smoothie is a great way to up your prebiotic intake. But I would highly recommend getting prebiotics through food. I know that there are a lot of supplements on the market right now that advertise as a prebiotic, a probiotic, and a postbiotic in one capsule. My thoughts on that. There's a reason why we don't sell that here. And that's because the amount of prebiotic that's in that little capsule is literally going to do nothing for you. Nothing. It's ridiculous to me that they would put a tiny amount of a prebiotic. When you think about eating fibrous foods, that's very bulky. That's a lot of food. Like, you need the breakdown process. A tiny bit of a powdered prebiotic in a capsule is nothing. That's not going to do anything. It's silly. Unfortunately, it's just supplement marketing. And there are a lot of companies that do this. They throw things together because it sounds good, but it's not actually going to do anything for your body. So no, I don't think you should be taking a prebiotic capsule. If you want to get extra prebiotics in, you can do that through our protein powder. You can do that through getting like an inulin powder and adding it to your own smoothie and just eating a wide variety of fibrous foods. That's going to do it for you. Get in your fiber, which is good for your digestion. It's good for so many other things as well anyway. So getting in your fiber is going to be the best way to get prebiotics into your body and fuel your microbiome. Now, probiotics. I have a lot of thoughts about probiotics. There's a reason why we didn't actually recommend them in our clinic to our patients. Many reasons. One, we found postbiotics were just more effective, but two, there can be a lot of issues with probiotic supplementation. So I'm just going to break this down. One, the majority of probiotics are not really making it to your intestines. Probiotics are very delicate. They're very sensitive to the environment, to temperature, and not many of them are even viable to begin with, let alone getting through your stomach acid, unless a company uses a special encapsulation. Like with our Complete Biotic, we have that delayed release capsule. So if you have a company that is using a special encapsulation for that probiotic, then okay, it's going to get into your system. Now let's talk about what happens once it gets into your system. So like I said earlier, your microbiome has trillions of bacteria in it. And of those trillions, there's about over 5,000 different strains that we know of. So like sort of different species. And you know, science is really still learning more about the microbiome. So that's as many bacteria as they've discovered so far. There could be more. There could be more different strains, but that's what we know of. So when you look at your average probiotic, you're going to have 4 or 5 strains in there. And again, you got like 5,000 different types of strains. So then the question becomes, okay, are the strains I'm taking in this probiotic the strains I actually need? Is that what my microbiome actually needs? Am I deficient in these 5 strains? And how do you know that? Well, you don't really. Now you can do a DNA stool panel. I ran lots of these at the clinic, and this is when I really began to understand some of the issues with probiotics. So we would run these stool panels. Now these stool panels are pretty advanced. The one I would run would test for about 21 different bacteria. Again, 5,000 different strains. The capability of this test was it could test for about 21 of them. And it was DNA based, so it was very accurate, but you're also getting like a snapshot of that particular day, moment of your microbiome. Your microbiome actually is changing throughout the day. Every time you eat something, your microbiome changes. If you are stressed, it's changing. If you're relaxed, it affects it. If you're drinking, if you're taking medication, all these different things are going to affect your microbiome. So it actually is always changing and fluctuating throughout the day. So you could run a stool panel test every day and it's going to look different. It's always going to look a little different. But anyway, we're looking at 21 of these bacteria, and what I noticed with these tests when I started really researching is that there is a range. So you could look at a popular good bacteria like a lactobacillus, and there would be a range where too little of it is not good, but too much of it was also not good. Because what happens when you have too much of a certain bacteria is it starts to throw off the balance of the microbiome. Because you have to think of your gut, your microbiome, as like this little village. It's alive. So you have all this bacteria living together, and you have all these different species living together. And so if you start taking a probiotic that has the same strains in it every day, the same strains, the same 5 strains, you're building up those 5 strains in your microbiome. But what's happening to the rest of them? Now you start to have an imbalance. And these bacteria, we always call them good bacteria. They're only good when they are in harmony and when they are balanced with each other. Too much of one can become antagonistic to the rest of the gut. The journal Cell did a big probiotic study in 2018, which actually really confirmed a lot of the things that I was already thinking, which is, one, most probiotics aren't very viable. They don't even make it to the intestines to begin with. And the ones that do are sometimes flushed right out because the microbiome literally kind of rejects them. They are not wanted. If there's too much of them, they are not wanted, and the body is getting rid of them. Now, of course, you can get lucky. Maybe you are deficient in those 5 strains, and so you start taking a probiotic and you feel a lot better. And maybe you feel a lot better for a certain period of time, and then the effect kind of wears off, and maybe you just don't need it anymore. That absolutely can happen. The reason I didn't recommend it clinically was when I started to look at all these factors and look at the science it was just a guessing game. I didn't know if I gave a patient a probiotic, if it was going to help them, if it was going to do nothing, or if it was going to possibly harm them and make things worse. So that's why we personally didn't recommend probiotics in our clinic and why we don't sell one. And now if you are taking a probiotic and it's working for you and you feel good on it, great, keep doing it. Just for us clinically, we didn't see a lot of benefit from it. We didn't really see it do a lot for our patients, and we found much more benefit with prebiotics and with postbiotics. And actually, a lot of the health benefits that are attributed to probiotics are because of postbiotics. It's because probiotics make postbiotics, and then postbiotics do all these wonderful things. So you can kind of skip the middleman. The bottom line is, if you are fueling your microbiome with enough fiber, with enough prebiotics, your body is going to naturally make the bacteria that it needs. Of course, having a healthy diet, eating rich fermented foods is also going to help, sort of feeding your body naturally with different probiotics that you would get through your diet is a great way to nourish your production of good bacteria. And if you are already supplementing with a postbiotic, what that postbiotic is doing is helping to create a very healthy gut environment for the bacteria that live in your microbiome. It's creating sort of a safe haven for that microbiome to be balanced, to work itself out, to readjust when it needs to. Now, to answer the other side of that question that we always get, can I take a probiotic with a postbiotic? Absolutely, you can. That probiotic is not going to affect the postbiotic. The postbiotic is going to do its own thing. So there's no interference there with each other. You can absolutely take both. But if you are getting in a fiber-rich diet and if you are supplementing with your postbiotic, then you probably don't need to supplement with a probiotic as well. I hope that helps clear up some of the confusion around prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. And if you have any more questions around this topic, please reach out to us. I'm always happy to hop on here and answer your questions. And if you think this information could be helpful to someone you know, please feel free to share. And thank you so much for watching and for your continued support. Have a beautiful day.